from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital. This is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Millicent Walker.
Tonight, Lagos State Governor institutes inquiry into Ikoyi building collapse incident, gives about 30 days to members of the panel to unravel cause of the tragedy, also reveals identities of survivors. 3 days to Anambra governorship election, Inspector General of Police, INEC Chairman, meets principal actors on peaceful conduct of the exercise. National Emergency Management Agency NEMA averts dangerous underground gas pipeline leakage in Ikeja area of Lagos. NNPC attributes incident to road construction and rehabilitation activities in the area. Tigrayan People's Liberation Front claims control of Kemi's town near the capital, Addis Ababa, just as US issues fresh security advisory to its citizens in Ethiopia. Plus international news from our studio in London.
On business news tonight, federal government seeks to fund priority highway road projects through Sukuk and tax credit schemes in 2022 fiscal year.
On sports news tonight, former PSG and Arsenal manager Unai Emery rules himself out of the Newcastle United job, saying he is 100% committed to Villarreal.
And from Abuja, Minister of Works and Housing Babatunde Fashola appears before House Committee on Works, says Second Niger Bridge, Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, among others, to be completed in 2022.
And time is ticking as emergency workers race to rescue more people from the 21-story building that collapsed in the Ikoyi area of Lagos on Monday. While that effort continues, the Lagos State Governor is appealing to families and residents to remain hopeful, adding that the incident can be attributed to mistakes from all angles. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who visited the scene for a second time today, announced that a panel of inquiry has been set up to investigate the incident and listed the names of survivors so far.
It's day 3. Search and rescue operations continue at the scene of the building collapse in Ikoyi area of Lagos. Families of victims sit around hoping to get the news that their loved one is still alive. The tension is palpable, and so is the expression of emotions. The excavators comb the rubble, and more bodies are recovered. On the sideline, an information and medical center is set up where families of victims or missing persons can use the register. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu arrives the scene, monitors the search and rescue operation. The governor says there is no manifest of those on site and the state is also working in the dark. He announces the setup of a panel of inquiry by the state.
A 5-member with 1 secretary that's also external, and they've been given a clear terms of reference.
But he has questions to answer from anxious family members.
My name is Jude Ogochukwu, and my brother is in there. He's an engineer, just about a month ago. We need to know early. This thing you are seeing, it will take probably 2 weeks to get this thing done.
Officially, there has to be an autopsy, and like I said, they're conducting that. So that's why we need to have a clear manifest of the family members and who will take to the morgue tomorrow to identify, the corpse that we have.
The search for more survivors continues at the site amid hopes and optimism as agencies of government work collaboratively in a mission expected to continue until the rubble is leveled.
Meanwhile, Ikoyi is arguably one of the most attractive settlements for the affluent in Nigeria, and in recent times, many high-rise buildings have been springing up in the area. This next report examines concerns about the state of structures in the vicinity of the collapsed 21-story building.
High-rise buildings like these ones being built by Foursquare Homes comprising 3 blocks of multi-story buildings are a common sight in highbrow Ikoyi. While some are completed and are already occupied, some others are still under construction. Considering the location of these buildings, not many will exercise any fear about the quality of the buildings. Surprisingly, however, one of the buildings gave way in broad daylight, causing chaos, confusion, and anxiety among the residents. The area plays host to several luxurious estates, including Osborne Foreshore, Dolphin, Banana Island, and Park View. Though it offers a serene environment for living and work, residents also contend with cases of building collapse, as most estate developers choose to build skyscrapers in order to maximize expensive limited land. The incident of the sudden collapse of a 21-story building is not the first. At least 30 people died in March 2016 in what appeared to be the biggest casualty from such an incident, following the collapse of a 5-story structure under construction in Lekki. While some were rescued, some others were not so lucky. Discussions soon moved to the factors responsible for the collapse. The Lagos State Deputy Governor, who was one of the early callers at the site, announced that although the contractors got approval for a 21-story building, the quality of materials was compromised.
Was done about 3 years ago, so it's not something new, but it's the construction. It's the construction that, that failed, apparently, we can see. So the approval was actually for 21 floors. This particular one collapsed.
An expert in the industry also weighs in on the collapse.
In a nutshell, we're standing in front of the signage, the so-called signage, which is supposed to be a prerequisite at a site. You cannot see the name of the architect. It's not visible. You cannot see the name of a structural engineer and other consultant. But there's so much going on the platform where the number written on all these consultants happens to be so-called, until it's well proven, the developer.
As rescue efforts continue, many will be hoping that the government will bring to book those responsible for this latest collapse. Hopefully, that will send a strong warning to anyone undertaking such exercise in future.
Well, let's go over to the collapsed building site where our correspondent Dari Dawood joins us right now. Dari, it's still lots happening, lots of hope on the situation there. Briefly, what more do we know, especially about those who might still be trapped? I know that earlier in the week we spoke and heard that some people had sent text messages from the rubble. What more do we know at this time?
Thank you, Millicent. We're still live at the scene of the building collapse here in the Ikoyi area of Lagos. Of course, just like as you said, a lot has happened today. The governor's been here. He said a lot as well and raised a lot of questions as to what could have gone wrong. He said there are mistakes from so many angles. And what you said, the question you asked about the text messages coming, I think that has been pretty much from Monday. People said they got text messages and some calls and all that, but all of that apparently faded away as time went by. But one other thing that we also must talk about, that in the background, you can see that the lights beaming right in our direction. That place properly lit. That is the equipment and all of that moving. In some cases, that movement, you may not even see it From what we gathered from the National Emergency Management official on ground here, he said there are new information, but they are not ready to provide those information just yet. But they're using audio signal technology to detect more sound, and that is still in line of the hopes that there will be people trapped and that can be rescued under the rubble. Of course, that hope is not just on the emergency management officials' side. Families, friends of those who are suspected to be trapped in this building are still hanging around, sitting on the median, on the main road, hoping that they will get that news that will come to them and that will bring that succor to them. But of course, from what we learned earlier as well, that the people who have been rescued alive at the hospital, 6 of them are still there. 3 have been discharged, and the governor also was able to reiterate that hope. And from what we've also gathered from the scene, because we've been here since morning, and Channels Television has been keeping tabs of the development around here, a lot of people are still missing, because if you look on the right, just like we did earlier, people are showing up at the desk set up by the Lagos State government. It's called the Information and the Medical Center, and that is where people who have someone missing can present their case. So people have been coming with pictures of people who came here for work on that particular day and are still missing. Back to you, Millicent.
Many thanks, Dari Daru, live for us there at the building collapse site. We'll touch base with you a little later on. Still in Lagos, what could have resulted in another tragedy was averted this morning after the National Emergency Management Agency raised an alarm following a report of a gas pipeline leakage in some parts of Ikeja. The massive gas leak, which was reported around the popular Computer Village area, Awolowo Way, Oba Akran Axis, Anifowoshe Street and Medical Road, has been brought under control after the leak was said to have been stopped. Emergency workers from NEMA, the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, and the Department of Petroleum Resources were mobilized to the site. Meanwhile, the NNPC in a statement has given the assurance that the affected area has been isolated by GasLink, its franchise partner that operates the pipeline, adding that the incident was caused by road construction activities. It asked residents not to panic as necessary safety measures have been taken to avert an escalation of the incident. And ahead of the November 6th election in Anambra State, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has held an election stakeholders meeting with political parties in Awka, the state capital. The INEC chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, says that every measure that will guard against voting by identity theft has been put in place by the deployment of the biometric voter accreditation system, thus abolishing the incident's form. He also gives assurances of conducting a free, fair and credible governorship election in the state.
Okay, let's go to the candidate. It is the Dora Ikoyi Women Development Center in the heart of Awka, the Anambra state capital. It plays host to top officials of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, led by the chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Alkali Baba Usman, members of the National Peace Committee led by Bishop Matthew Kuka. The Saturday governorship election is only a few days away, and INEC begins by giving assurances at this meeting of their readiness to conduct a free and fair exercise.
The Anambra governorship election has its own unique features and its own unique characteristics. It is also being conducted in difficult circumstances. The election will further test the resilience of our democracy and the resilience of our democratic institutions. It will test our determination and resolve to conduct election in difficult circumstances.
Other concerns about the poll are addressed, especially the newly created polling units and issues of security threats.
Out of the 5,720 polling units in Anambra State, 86 polling units, representing 1.5% of the total number of polling units, have no voters. There are no voters in 86 polling units in Anambra State. The Commission will not be deploying personnel and materials to these polling units.
Aside the optimal deployment of our intelligence asset to proactively frustrate any threat to the election, we have also deployed a total of 34,587 police personnel for the purpose of protecting the personnel and assets of the Independent National Electoral Commission, the electorate themselves, the residents of Anambra State during this exercise. This figure will be complemented by the military and other security intelligence agencies.
The National Peace Committee says it wants peace, and that is its mission in Awka, the Anambra State capital. The quest for peace is not far-fetched, considering the insecurity situations we've seen in the state in the past weeks.
I've come all the way from Sokoto from the other extreme end of this country as an act of solidarity. There's nothing else that the rest of us can offer. So we are here to hold your hands and to encourage you that it is quite conceivable that we could have free, fair, and credible elections in Anambra.
The thrust of the meeting is simply to ensure that a free, fair, and credible election is conducted on Saturday in Anambra State, and that would have been a big hurdle not only for INEC, for the people of Anambra State. Shonwa Kimaloe, Channels Television News.
In part two, after the break, more on the Anambra governorship election as politicians make last-minute overtures to voters. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Lagos State Governor institutes inquiry into the Ikoyi building collapse incident, also reveals names of survivors. 3 days to Anambra governorship election, Inspector General of Police, INEC Chairman meets principal actors on peaceful conduct of the exercise. NEMA averts underground gas pipeline leakage in Ikeja area of Lagos. An NPC attributes incident to road construction and rehabilitation activities in the area. Anti-Tigrayan People's Liberation Front claims control of Kemi's town near the capital Addis Ababa, just as US issues fresh security advisory to its citizens in Ethiopia. And we continue in Anambra, where an APGA chieftain and the senior special assistant to Governor Obiano on protocol matters, Nonso Nwebili, has defected to the APC. This comes as the All Progressives Congress governorship candidate in Anambra State, Anduba, takes his campaign to Ogbaru local government area. Receiving the new defector at the Central School, Atani, the director of media Anduba Campaign Council, commended Mr. Nwebili and his supporters for taking the decision to join APC.
The campaign trail of the All Progressives Congress governorship candidates, Mr. Andy Uba, lands at the Central School, Atani local government area for a rally that witnessed a huge turnout of party supporters. On arrival, Director of Media, Andy Uba Campaign Council, Mr. Afamugene, describes the party as a beautiful bride, not only in Anambra, but the entire Southeast zone, adding that what Anambra people need at this time is a man like Senator Uba.
We have problems in the Southeast, and the problem we have has to do with cries of alienation and marginalization. And so some people thought about it, that the best way to address it is to connect to the center, instead of remaining as a one-party state.
Anambra APC women leader, Kalista Nwachukwu, was also on hand to drum up support for the APC and its candidate.
My message, they should come out. No fear. They shouldn't fear of anything, because we know actually that the election is going to hold. And I'm begging all of them to come out. They have seen all the federal house members, senators, sitting state house assembly, sitting federal house members, former this and former that, they are all joining APC.
On his part, a former official of the Anambra state government outlines what Anambra people stand to benefit if APC wins the forthcoming governorship election.
Our issues are federal. Now, the road that is linking us to Port Harcourt, River State, is a federal road. When we ask them to go and fix that road, they will say it's a federal road. So why will I remain in a party that is a state party? I haven't exhausted all my abilities in the state as an SA to the governor, as an SSA. I want to move up to the end. I want to join people to get to the next level.
With just days to the November 6th governorship election in Anambra State, all eyes will be on the state, especially as the political parties and their candidates try to get more voters to their camps.
Meanwhile, for the All Progressives Grand Alliance APGA, it says it is not a political party but a movement that cannot be stopped. That's the message taken to the people of Awka North and South local government area of the state by the APGA campaign team led by Governor Willie Obiano. They also visited Idemili South local government area where party faithful stated that the governor has made the job easy by presenting the most credible candidate.
With just days to the Anambra governorship election, the ruling All Progressives Grand Alliance APGA is ramping campaigns in 3 local government areas of Awka South, Awka North and Idemili. Led by Governor Willie Obiano, the APGA governorship candidate, Professor Charles Soludo, and other party leaders arrived in Benebe, venue of the campaign rally in Awka North, where the achievements of Governor Obiano are highlighted, even as the national chairman insists that the elections will not be rigged.
Listen to me. Whoever tells you that this election will be rigged is lying. Why I said so is that somebody says that the results have been written, and yet the same person is running around campaigning. Who is fooling who?
Professor Soludo reels out his plans for the people, especially the youth, with a promise to provide jobs yearly, while the governor, through a song, tells the people that it's APGA all the way.
We are coming. We have our agenda, our manifesto. What we compiled here is how to consolidate on the solid foundation of APGA government under Willie Obiano. Our youth, we have a big agenda for you, providing jobs for our young people, creating 1,000 young millionaires every year.
130,000 jobs for our youths every year.
At Awka Town Stadium in Awka South local government area, the party faithful from 21 wards troop out to welcome the campaign trail. In a symbolic moment, the Awka Traditional Institution, represented by the Red Cap Chiefs, hand the keys of the State House to APGA.
In Jesus' mighty name we pray.
Well, let's now join our political correspondent, Seun Kimbaloye, who is in Anambra at the moment. Seun, as much as I want to ask about some of the delicacies you've tasted in Anambra, security is on top of everyone's lips in preparations for the election on Saturday. How is that going?
Thank you so much, Millicent. Welcome to Awka. Everything seems to be peaceful, and every of the citizens that we've met today seems to be going about their businesses just as normal, just as usual. You can see around the city police officers, maybe because we saw the Inspector General of Police today in town, who attended the stakeholders meeting alongside the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, alongside some stakeholders who are seeking for peace in this election. Perhaps that tells of the reasons why we see the kind of police officers that we're seeing. But look, Millicent, we've been told that there is going to be about 34,587 police personnel on the ground for this election. That is only men and women of the Nigerian police force. We are not talking about the soldiers, the men and women of the military, or any other intelligence agencies in the country that will be deployed. We'll be seeing far more than that. Some people have said close to 50,000. We might be seeing presence of security agents in Anambra State for this election. But so much we've seen some kind of show of force around town to tell any would-be perpetrator of violence that it won't be easy for them. If you see around the perimeters of the state, you see some level of presence, checks, points at every point in the city, tells you of what to come. But tomorrow we understand that the politicians, political parties, the candidates will be coming together to sign a peace accord, a peace pact to say that they all agree to have a peaceful, non-violent election that will see another governor for the next 4 years for the people of Anambra State. But interestingly, aside the issue of security, Millicent, we can also expect that there will be some 86 polling units that will be inactive. That is, we will not be having any elections in those areas, because what we understand that out of about 1,112 polling units, new polling units created in Anambra State, 894 of those are between 1 to 49 voters, and 86 of them will not be seeing any kind of deployment from INEC. But so far, it's been peaceful, and we hope that that would take us to far beyond to the election and far beyond after the elections. Millicent.
Indeed. Thanks, Seun, our political correspondent there ahead of the Anambra elections, November 6th. Well, from Anambra, we take you to Abuja, where Magwe Ogun Yusuf has some more stories. Magwe.
Thank you, Millicent. We start off at the National Assembly, where budget defense is currently ongoing by the different ministries, departments and agencies. Today, it was the turn of the Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, who was given timelines for the completion of major federal government projects. He says while the Abuja-Kano Road will be ready by 2023, the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway and the second Niger Bridge will be completed in 2022. Our correspondent Terry Kumi reports.
As the budget defense sessions gradually wind down, more MDAs are stepping forward to defend their 2022 budgets. The Minister of Works and Housing appears before the House Committee on Works, where he gives a timeline for the completion of some major federal government projects.
When will the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway be finished? It will be finished in 2022. That is the schedule. Be finished in 2022, Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. The second Niger Bridge will be finished also in 2022. That is the plan. And it is on schedule. The contractors tell us that the spans of the bridges will be fully connected by the end of Q1.
According to you, we have more than 7.4 trillion contracts awarded so far in the Ministry of Works. And we have some different innovations, different categorizations for funding this kind of projects.
At another defense session of the House Committee on Drugs and Narcotics, the chairman of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency wants more funding for the agency.
There's no business that is awash with funds anywhere in this world from unproductive efforts like the drug business. There are billions. And so when you don't fund the agency, the personnel have temptation. They are tempted by these billions.
Meanwhile, the Committee on Youth Development hosts the Director General of the National Youth Service Corps, who informs them that the Corps has ramped up its revenue generation.
Based on the promise I made last year, that by the special grace of God, for my presentation today, we are going to generate close to 500 million. And this, I'm happy to let you know that we have generated over 511 million, which we paid to the Federation account last week.
We promise we are going to do due diligence and especially about the trust fund. So I know that it's coming up as an executive bill, so let it go. So when it reaches the House, so I trust our honorable members and we are going to work strenuously to make sure that it is upheld and it is improved upon.
The committee further assures that it will look into the appeal by the NYSC DG to increase the feeding allowance of corps members in line with current economic realities.
When the News at 10 returns, we have what residents in Kogi are saying on the state of a federal road in their area. Plus, the Securities and Exchange Commission calls for more innovation to deepen the capital market. That's some business news. Do join us again. Welcome back to the News at 10. Motorists, commuters and residents in the Mokpa-Egbe area in Kogi State are seeking the attention of the federal government regarding the state of their road. They lament that it has brought untold hardship to them, especially in the face of the spate of kidnappings and robbery, which they say have increased around that axis. Meanwhile, the governor, Yaya Bello, has also appealed that federal roads in the state be included amongst those marked for rehabilitation before the Yuletide.
The federal road leading to Mokpa-Isonlu-Egbe to Kwara State is in a deplorable condition and needs government attention ahead of the festivity season. The road is now being deserted by most of the commercial drivers because of the dangers of being kidnapped owing to the bad state of the road. A journey that is originally not meant to be more than 2 hours will take over 4 to 5 hours because of the bad roads. Some drivers who cannot go through the longer route are pleading with the government to fix the problem as soon as possible.
So if you see all this place now, all this trailer and small car now, they can't pass here again because this place is very deep. So if you look this around now, you will see all our people, they are working to divert the road along because all this road now, any vehicle now merchant can't even pass all here.
Government will help us to repair that road, but this road is too bad, too much.
Some youth from Mokpa create a diversion to enable motorists move while they collect toll fee from trucks and even motorists. The federal road, which passes through Ganaja, Ajaokuta to the eastern states, is also in a deplorable condition, begging for attention. The potholes in some section of the roads has led to several accidents. Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello lends his voice to call on the federal government to help rehabilitate some of the bad section of the roads.
Kogi, let me remind each and every one of us today that we are the real heartbeat of this nation. More than 80% of transportation of goods and services between the north and south passes through Kogi State at one point or another.
The people say they are expecting that the government will come to their rescue by fixing the Mokpa-Isonlu road down to the Kwara State road.
And that's all from Abuja. It's back now to you, Millicent.
Many thanks, Mark. And to other stories, it's Finance Day at the United Nations Conference on Climate Change in Glasgow, devoted to topics such as seeing wealthier nations deliver on pledges to give $100 billion annually in funding to developing countries, both directly and indirectly. The developed countries have not met the target, although some countries announced increases to their planned pledges in the opening days of the conference. Our correspondent Ayola Kasim has more on today's session.
With the World Leaders Summit finished, most head of state and government are now homeward bound, leaving behind delegations of diplomats to begin the real work of COP26, which is to determine what exactly countries can and are willing to do to rapidly reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And money is one of the core issues to be tackled.
Stepping out on the Finance Day at the conference, the UK Chancellor of the Exchequer says increased public investment, mobilizing private finance, and rewiring the entire global financial system for net zero are needed steps to accelerating climate actions. He also acknowledges that the G20 countries know the impact of the double tragedy of COVID-19 and climate change on developing countries and are now committing to fulfilling their promises.
That's why the G20 is stepping up to provide debt treatments more swiftly.
It's why the IMF are providing a new $650 billion allocation of special drawing rights. And it's why we're going to meet the target to provide $100 billion of climate finance to developing countries. And while we know we are not yet meeting it soon enough, we will work closely with developing countries to do more and to reach the target sooner.
Developed countries have always failed to step up to their commitment. The president of the African Development Bank did not fail to call them out on this.
The $100 billion per year promise of developed countries are simply like lifeboats for developing countries, so they do not drown in the face of existential threats of climate change. Promises made must become promises kept. As we look to COP27 in Africa, let's make sure that promises made right here in Glasgow are fully kept.
To some, the success here in Glasgow will be judged on how much negotiators stand with vulnerable people who suffer most from the impact of climate change.
If there is no stream of finance that is now provided to developing countries and vulnerable people, we will call COP26 a failure.
6 years ago, Paris set the destination. The call now is for Glasgow to deliver the money. From the venue of COP26 in Glasgow, Ayola Kasim, Channels Television News.
And elsewhere, 162 stranded Nigerians have returned from Libya. They arrived at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, at about 2 a.m. today. The breakdown of returnees include 98 adult females, 28 adult males, 19 female children, 5 male children, 9 female infants, and 3 male infants. Amongst the list are 5 persons who are said to have reported various degrees of health-related issues. It's time for business news. Here's Anne Nwaldo.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Millicent. Hello and welcome to Business News. The federal government says it will prioritize the completion of road projects, especially roads and bridges that lead to the airports, ports, and major agricultural hubs across the country. The Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, disclosed this today during the budget defense before the House of Representatives Committee on Works. According to him, alternative sources of funding through the Sovereign Sukuk Fund, the tax credit schemes, as well as the Presidential Infrastructure Development Fund are all being secured for the projects due to insufficient budgetary provisions. He also adds that 420.5 billion naira is outstanding for payments to contractors for duly certified and approved works as at October the 20th. Let's head to the domestic equities market. It moved into negative territory today at the close of trading session. Investors still lost 20 billion naira. Laddie Williams has the details.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, the equities appear to be heading for a choppy week as the bull and the bear are in a tussle for dominance in the market. The all-share index failed to sustain gains recorded at intraday and eventually fell by 0.09% at the close of today's session. That's losing by a similar margin gained in yesterday's trade. Well, it's a sea of red on the activity chart as trade volume continues to decline and with overall turnover. This decline is further reflected in the sectoral performance. It's only the consumer goods index gained in today's session. Let's take a look at the high performance for today from the insurance sector. We have Universal Insurance Company, top gain its chart, closely followed by Multiverse Mining and Exploration and Honeywell Flour Mill, while Lasaco Assurance led 19 other losers. APGA Holdings is back on the top trade leaderboard after a pullback in price yesterday. Well, it's the midweek session, 2 more days to go, and let's see who dominates the week. And that's the Stock Market Report. I'm Laddie Williams. It's back to you.
Thanks a lot, Ladi. Meanwhile, in the United States, stocks rose to new records today after the Federal Reserve made its long-anticipated announcement to slow the monthly bond purchases implemented during the pandemic. Let's take a look at the closing numbers for today. And that's the midweek edition of Business News. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. It's back to you, Millicent.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial star 894 hash now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Anne. Still ahead on the news at 10, Tigrayan People's Liberation Front claims control of Kemi's town near the capital Addis Ababa. And more international news from our studio in London. Please stay with us. Welcome back. The Tigrayan People's Liberation Front claims it has taken control of the town of Kemis near the capital Addis Ababa, just as a joint investigation by the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission and the UN Human Rights Office say all sides in the conflict violated international human rights and may have committed war crimes. Simon Pusey has more international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. China has defended their climate record after the US President Joe Biden attacked Xi Jinping for not attending the COP26 summit in Glasgow. The Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson said the world needs real action on climate, claiming other nations' promises are just empty words. He added that Chinese actions on climate change are tangible, and he hopes the US can take quick decisions and measures to cut emissions. Mr. Xi didn't attend the summit talks in person, but he has been represented by its chief medical negotiator. Mr. Biden had earlier said the leader's absence was a big mistake. Republican Glenn Youngkin has won Virginia's governor's election with another Republican candidate close to winning in New Jersey. In Virginia, a state Biden won by 10 points in the presidential election last year, the Republican newcomer defeated the Democrat Terry McAuliffe. Some have seen this result as a red flag for the Democrats' leadership in anticipation of midterm elections in November 22 that could see them lose control of the Congress. The 4-year-old girl who went missing for 18 days in Western Australia has been found alive and well by police. According to the Australian authorities, Cleo Smith had been locked in a house in Carnarvon, a town around 100 kilometres south of the campsite she went missing in. Cleo's family have been looking for her since October the 16th, when she was last seen in the tent she was sleeping in. Police had feared the girl had been abducted and offered a $1 million reward for any information about her. Police now say a suspect has been taken into custody in relation with her disappearance.
We'll have more to say on the...
A joint investigation by the United Nations and Ethiopia has stated that all sides fighting the war in the Tigray region have committed violations which may amount to war crimes. According to the report, both sides are accused of torturing and killing civilians and making arrests on the basis of ethnicity. The investigation covers from November to June, during the conflict fought by Tigrayan forces against the Ethiopian military and soldiers from the nearby country of Eritrea. Earlier, the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed pledged to bury his government's enemies as he marked the start of the war 1 year ago. Despite the accusations against both sides, it isn't clear whether the findings could lead to legal action, since Ethiopia and Eritrea are not members of the International Criminal Court. At least 22 people, including children, have been killed and another 8 wounded after a passenger coach plunged into a ravine in the Pakistani zone of Kashmir. Among the dead were 2 children aged 9 and 4, a prayer leader and a Pakistani army soldier. Road accidents frequently occur in the mountainous part of Pakistani Kashmir, often due to poor road services and overloaded public transport vehicles. A magnitude 5.9 earthquake has hit the coastal city of Valparaiso in Chile. Surveillance camera footage from a house shows the interior shaking, while citizens reported they were woken up by the tremor. According to authorities, no major damage or casualties have been reported so far. And finally, police in Nepal have honoured dozens of dogs with medals during a 5-day festival known as Tihar, dedicated to dogs and crows. The religious celebration that lasts 5 days gives honour to the dog, which is considered by devout Hindus as the messenger of the god of death. 47 dogs took part in the show at the Police Canine Training Centre, which included competitions and obedience displays such as high jumps and runs. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. The governor of Bayelsa State, Doediri, has received 9-year-old Deborah Kwekpen, who emerged champion at the just-concluded Under-10 Africa Youth Chess Championship that was held in Accra, Ghana. The Bayelsa-born chess prodigy amassed 8.0 points to defeat Tunisia's Hasnaoui Abra in her 9th and final game. And Villarreal manager Unai Emery has ruled himself out of the Newcastle United job, saying he is 100% committed to the La Liga side. Former Paris Saint-Germain and Arsenal manager Emery was the leading contender to replace Steve Bruce at Newcastle after the Englishman was sacked shortly after the club was taken over by a consortium led by Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund. And Tottenham Hotspur captain Hugo Lloris says Antonio Conte will be a great opportunity, but players also need to take responsibility for the club's recent form. Lloris is confident Conte will bring a proper structure to the side and help all players to improve, adding that his CV speaks for itself. And that's it on Sports News. I'm Victor Matthias. It's back to Millicent with the rest of the news at 10.
Thanks, Victor. And the main news again. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu today instituted a panel of inquiry into the Ikoyi building collapse and gave about 30 days to members to unravel the cause of the tragedy. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Good night. Stay safe.